Well, hey, welcome to House Parties. I'm excited you guys are here.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a good night.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Nate. This is Stetson. If you don't
Hello.
know us, you guys should know us. I feel like most people should know us by now.
Yeah.
If not, if they're new, which we do still get a lot of new people,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yep.
We'll try not to make you feel too uncomfortable.
Right.
All right, so hey, we got some announcements. What's coming up?
I thought it was funny how there was an uncomfortable silence right after you said that. That was amazing. You're probably sick of us saying this by now, but you're not sick of the idea of it. But we have our missions trip coming up in July.
3rd through the 8th?
Yep. How many spots as of now?
I don't know. It's less than 10.
Less than 10. Last time it was 10. And those are going to
I haven't looked for a little while. Lauren would be able to better answer that one, but it's sub 10.
Sub 10.
Sub 10.
That could be 1. It could be 9.
Could be any number in between those as well.
Yeah. So you're just kind of taking chances by waiting to sign up because it's going to be really, really good.
It is going to be a great week. We get to go. We get to serve some amazing people, and it's so cool because like not only on these trips do you get to actually like help people in some real tangible ways, which I love, but it's also this opportunity to really kind of take a break from our normal life and be able to reflect a little bit. And I don't know about you, I always come back with a little bit of a fresh perspective. I'm like, man, I'm a little I want to serve people more. I want to be less selfish. I want to be more aware of some of the needs that are around me. So if that's something you want to do, come talk to us. If money's an issue, don't worry. We have scholarships available. Also, summer calendar should be going out soon. By the way, Lauren, you're listening to this. I know you are. Can you go ahead and order us some summer calendars?
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. Thanks, Lauren.
I keep forgetting to put that on our agenda for our meetings, but if you could order maybe a couple hundred of those, that'd be great. Multitasking.
Yeah,
this is really, really good.
Next Wednesday is student night at Zoe's.
Yeah, and hey, here's what's really cool. Michael Breimer, our new worship guy, he's leading. And if you've been around on a weekend, you know, like this guy is so gifted. Very reminiscent of Rocky and Lenny, which I love. So if you guys are around, come be a part of that. We'd love to have you there. Bring friends. We got dinner. It's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, it'll be really good.
All right, and then I guess the only other thing is like we got new students moving up in May.
Oh yeah, we're about to have the new 7th graders.
They're gonna come check it out in the first week of May for a student night, which would be fun.
Cool.
I'm excited about that.
That'll be great.
But yeah, that won't really impact you guys too much until they come in. Having said that, we got some slices.
Yes.
What's happening in culture in the world that we should know about?
I just learned an interesting fact. This is more trivia than a slice. It's not very good.
Did you just figure it out when you were driving here?
No. This morning, I learned that the very first time someone got pulled over for speeding, they were going 8 miles an hour, which is 4 times the speed that people should have been going on horseback in this town in England.
How would they measure how quick somebody was going?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Maybe they followed them for an hour.
You know what I mean? It's like now you can do it with the speedometer and like the little radar gun, but like back then, like you were going 8 miles an hour.
Yep. It was in a Mercedes-Benz. So since the very beginning, people in bougie cars have been assuming the rules don't apply to them since the very beginning. So
it's either like the really bougie cars or the really trashy cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those are the ones that, like, if you go on YouTube and
puttering
search,
through
like,
stop signs and red lights,
like which kind of makes sense because it's older people who have a lot of money and then a bunch of poor high school kids who don't.
Yeah.
Who think the rules don't apply. Follow the rules, guys. Yeah. No accidents.
Yeah.
Well,
that was mine.
That was
I know
good.
it wasn't good. I'm sorry.
It's still it left me with lots more questions, which I'm okay with.
All right.
So for me, obviously, you know who Elon Musk is, right?
Yes.
I love Elon. Elon is like the master troller. Like that, he just loves to troll people all the time.
Right.
So obviously, there's a war going on over in Ukraine with Russia and Putin.
Yep.
Boo. And Elon, he's found a lot of ways to kind of insert himself into this conflict. There's the first one where he's like, hey, you want to take down their internet? I'm going to go ahead and send out a bunch of Starlink stuff and give them all internet.
Right. Yep.
Super duper cool.
Yep.
But that's not my slice. My slice is actually much funnier than that. See, Elon, he actually had a solution to this whole Ukraine-Russia debacle. Do you know what he did?
I do. I'll let you say it.
So he tweeted this out. He said, I hereby challenge Vladimir Putin to single combat. The stakes are Ukraine. So, like, he's sitting there looking at this whole world conflict going like, hey, I got a solution. Putin, let's get in a boxing ring. Let's duke it out. The winner takes all.
Yeah.
Now, look, like, Elon, he's probably a smart guy. He could probably, like, you know, I picture him like Tony Stark building, you know, just like, I'm gonna build my Iron Man costume and, like, step up into that. But then I think about Vladimir Putin, and you've probably seen these pictures of him riding, was it a bear in the winter without a shirt on?
It was a horse.
Was it a horse?
It was a horse.
I thought there's a picture of him riding a bear out there.
He was bare-chested riding
I'm
a horse.
pretty sure I've seen a picture of him riding. Either way,
Right.
the dude's out there in a Russian winter, like former KGB, like what, like
Yeah.
not a guy I'd want
With
to
a
be
lot
in a
of
fist.
training,
Yeah,
too.
not a guy I'd want to be in a
Yeah.
fist. So that's funny, but this is the part that really cracked me up. So the head of the Russian space agency decided to respond to him.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, Putin never responded. So the head
Oh,
of the
of course.
Russian space agency, his name is Dmitry Rogozin. He goes, "You little devil are still young. Compete with me, weakling. It would only be a waste of time." So I'm just like picturing this like international crisis getting started because Elon Musk, who isn't even American, by the way, he's
No.
from what, Austria or something
I
like
think
that.
so. Yeah.
Like rolls up, decides to start beef with the Russian government. So, anyways, stay tuned for more breaking news on that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really funny,
Mhm.
right? And the fact that the Russians actually responded to it,
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
that's the part that I found really intriguing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I could tweet it, Vladimir Putin. Not that he'd see it anymore, because I'm pretty sure Twitter shut down there now.
Yeah.
But if I could, I would.
All right.
Well,
I'm all sliced up.
Yeah, I'm sliced out too. All right. Well, hey, we have been doing this thing that we do every once in a while where we, instead of like doing a series where Sets and I talk about a thing we want
Yeah.
to talk about, which is great. And we love doing that, right? Like that's actually really valuable because there are issues that you guys are walking through that we think are really important. We want to take time just to open up God's word with you and not just us doing it, but actually giving you guys a time in your house parties to do it because
Yeah.
the Bible is a book we believe that has the ability to literally transform our lives. Like
Yep.
it's this thing that God has given us to act as a guide, to act as an instructor, to find wisdom, peace, comfort in the things that are written in it. And
Mhm.
so we don't want to forsake that. Like we don't
Yeah.
ever want to walk away from that. We actually want to lean into that and teach you guys how to read the Bible and to walk through it because you know it's a book that you can keep going back for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And so the way we're kind of doing this is we pick a book every few months that we just kind of talk about,
Mhm.
right? And we don't do like a sermon where we walk through every verse and talk about what the Greek and the Hebrew mean. Although there's time and place for that.
Sure.
But instead, we kind of pick out some ideas in a chapter, and then we hand it off to you guys to read and really be able to process. And so, like 4 weeks ago, we started going through First Timothy, and it's a great book. A lot of good stuff there. Paul wrote it to his young friend. He's like a pastor in a city called Ephesus, and he was facing all kinds of issues. He was young, immature, but also like really mature. And so Timothy was being encouraged by Paul. So that's a little background context to this book, but we've
Mhm.
just been going chapter by chapter and talking about it.
Yeah.
So how many have we done so far?
3, and this will be 4.
So be quattro. So you want to take it away since I just did that little explanation?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
All right. I think for me, and again, you'll read this yourself, talk about what sticks out to you. But verses 1 through 4 stuck out to me. Let me see. I got to pull it up here. 1 Timothy chapter 4. Okay. In the ESV translation, and if you don't know about translations, just ask your house party leaders. It says this. Now the Spirit expressly says that in later times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and teachings of demons, through the insincerity of liars whose consciences are seared, who forbid marriage and require abstinence from foods that God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. For everything created by God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving. I thought what was interesting about that is the first verse talking about deceitful spirits and teachings of demons. It was going to be followed by these things of like, and they're sacrificing children, and
They're eating people.
yeah, like all that. But the teachings that he's talking about people being overly legalistic and claiming things that God is not actually saying about don't do this and don't do this and don't do
Like
this and don't do
you
this.
can't listen to music with swear words.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You can only watch Kirk Cameron movies.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing rated R except The Passion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, stuff like that. By the way, if your parents have those rules in place, respect
That's totally
your parents.
okay.
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Don't listen to us. We don't know what we're talking about.
But it's like, I don't know. That's something to think about. Where it's like he's warning us against people who are bringing this very legalistic. God said, "Don't do this. Don't do this."
When I think what's really important to talk about here is like, look, there's a difference between me choosing not to participate in something because I want to love God and I don't want to poison myself with things, versus somebody saying to me, hey, if you want God to love you and to be a good Christian, this is what you have to do. Right. Really big difference there, right? Like, so if that's you and you go like, yeah, I don't listen to like rap and some of this other stuff, right? Because I know it doesn't put my heart in a good place. It's like, that's actually wisdom. That's not legalism. But if Stetson and I got up here and said, hey, you can't listen to X, Y, and Z because they're heathens and pagans, like that's legalism, right? So there's a really big difference there between something being forced upon you and you actually choosing something yourself.
Yeah. On the inverse side, verse 4, everything created by God is good and nothing is to be rejected if it's received with thanksgiving. A lot of people have misused that verse.
A lot of Christians in Colorado I know have misused that verse.
Yeah.
What's of the earth is of the greatest worth.
I'm thankful for meth.
Like or marijuana, right?
Yeah,
you know, like
for sure.
God made it. We can use it.
It's a plant. So I don't know. That could be really interesting to talk about. What does that verse mean? Right. That was one for me. What do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean that was, I think, a really big one. There's another verse that stuck out to me where Paul says this. He says, "Have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come."
Yep.
And I don't know, like that first part there, have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Like I often wonder, man, how much of the stuff that we spend all of our time thinking about as it relates to our relationship with Jesus would be considered a irreverent, silly myth, right? Like how often are we just like absolutely missing the bigger picture of what God is calling us into, right? Because again, think about Ephesus. Yeah. Think about where this is written, right? This is in the heart of the Greco-Roman Empire. They were all about the myths there. They cared all about the past. They cared all about these things. And it's almost as if Paul was going like, hey, like the past is good, right? Like history is good. The gods are like, but you're living in the present.
Yep.
Right. So don't get distracted by all this stuff that ultimately doesn't really matter. Like you've got this thing you've been called to do today. So do it. Yeah. Right. And like, so contextually, like that makes a lot of sense. But then there's this other thing he says where he's talking about like training for godliness, like bodily training, it's of some value. Godliness is of value in every way. And it got me thinking, like, I love going to the gym. Like, I love working out and doing all that kind of stuff. And I know other people who really, really love working out. Like for me, it makes me look like an infant, right? Like, there are people who entire lives are wrapped up in working out. Maybe it's like sports and athletics. Maybe that actually, you know, I know that's some of you guys. Like, if you were to sit down and total up the time that you spent doing, like, and I've done this before. It's like, hey, like, athletic stuff, it's like 20 hours a week, right? I am training my body really, really, really well. I'm not talking about me, but like people. Sure. But then you start to think about like, all right, but like how much time do I actually spend intentionally seeking the Lord? And it's like 15 minutes, right? And again, think about the culture and the context. This is Ephesus, right? They had the Olympic Games. Like they were obsessed with getting to peak physical perfection. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that was what like everything was about in this culture. And so like you ate well, you worked out so that you could have these like chiseled bodies so that you could be super, super strong. And Paul's going like, hey, like that's fine. Like there's some value in that. Like I get that, but don't neglect your soul so you could take care of your body. Yeah. And I think about like our culture today, like, man, like we worship the human body. Yeah. Like that's why we have, you know, a million different kinds of diets. That's why we have, even in our city, what, like 40, 50 different gyms that I can think of. Yeah. How many different sports teams, right? And none of those are bad. None of those are bad. Sure. But like far too often we kind of get our priorities out of line, and Paul's just going like, hey, like, you're still going to die. Like
Yep.
that body that you
Yep.
try to care for, it's still going to rot.
Yep.
But your soul, like that's going to live on forever. So
Mhm.
like don't neglect the thing that really matters and goes on into eternity.
Yeah.
Just so you can take care of this thing that's ultimately going to get old and decay and rot and die.
Yep. Yeah. So maybe a good question for you guys to think about is like what working out in the gym is to the body. What is the equivalent of that for your soul? I don't know.
Spiritual push-ups.
Whatever that looks like. Okay, maybe one final thing. Actually, I think you really touched on this.
What about verse 12?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Come on, we can't do 1 Timothy
No.
to students without talking about
right.
that.
You're so right. So one of the reasons why we chose this book is because this is a letter that Paul wrote to someone who in that time, place, and culture was considered young. And maybe not looked as the epitome of wisdom because they haven't had the life experience yet to be paid attention to. So verse 12 says, "Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity." We really believe in you guys.
Yep.
And we would echo the same thing to you. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're in middle school and high school. And it's interesting that Paul says not to set an example for like the heathens over here, the smokers at high school, which are incredible people just like everybody else. But
it's for everyone in the church.
Yeah. It's for the other Christians. And so we're part of conversations where we're talking about it. It's like, man, how can we like learn from you guys? Like, how can church and Christianity be shaped and changed because of your perspective, not the other way around? So,
there's 5 things he lists there, right? Conduct, love, faith, purity, and speech.
Yep.
And it might be good to talk about like, all right, so what does setting an example in all of these 5 different areas actually look like in today's day and age?
Yeah.
Right? Because we could sit here and tell you what we think it is, but remember, Paul is writing to a younger guy without telling him what that actually looks like. He's saying like, hey, here's some things, like dream about this, think about this.
Yep.
And the reality is, like, like I've said this before to you guys, every great movement that has ever happened within Christianity, it began when a group of young people decided to do these 5 things. Right? It's when a group of young people said, Jesus, we take you seriously. We take this call upon our life seriously, and we're not content with the way things are. We're not content with the standards that other people around us have. Like, we're gonna set an example in speech and our conduct and our love and our faith and our purity. And literally, like, it has changed the world when young people take this serious. And so, I don't know, maybe we could see some change happen in your schools because of this, or Greeley, even Weld County.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm excited about conversations that can happen.
Yeah, I think this would be a really great jumping off point. So having said that, leaders, we're going to hand it off to you. If you guys have questions, ask your leaders. They're somewhat knowledgeable. If not, they got phones. They could always check with Google. So
that's what I do.
Yeah. I don't even want to go there. All right, have a good one, guys.
Bye.